Welcome to the Beyond Ordinary Women podcast. Every 2 weeks, we post podcast versions of one of our free training videos, or you can access our videos now at beyondordinarywomen.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to this video and podcast from Beyond Ordinary Women. I'm Kelly Arabie. I'm part of the Beyond Ordinary Women ministry team. Joining me for this conversation today is Dr. Lynn Etta Manning. Lynn Etta recently retired from Dallas Seminary, where she served as the Assistant Dean of Students and Advisor to Women. You can read more about her on our website, beyondordinarywomen.org. Because of Lynn Etta's experience with women involved in ministry, we're so excited to talk about a topic that isn't usually covered in seminary, but is immensely practical: handling disappointment in ministry. So often, we enter a calling with an understanding of our gifts and talents, but sooner or later, every leader faces disappointment in ministry. Lynn Etta, how have you seen disillusionment expressed in the women you minister to?
Sometimes it comes from a lot of different areas, but most often I see disappointment occurring when people have the wrong expectations going into a situation. Most often expectations are never met, because expectations need to be in a category that, or actually what expectations are things that can happen without anybody disturbing it or interrupting it or causing it not to happen. So if you have expectations going into a situation, regardless of what it is, whether it's your kids, whether it's a dinner party you're having, if things are not totally under your control, then all your expectations may not be met, or none of them may be met. So it's good to always think about, how are you approaching a situation?
So what would it look like to have realistic expectations?
To have realistic expectations, I think that we need to consider them desires. They need to be desires that we wish that will happen, or that we see that we have some influence or control over happening. And that way it puts it in categories that we're more able to control, because really the only thing that we can control is ourselves. To have realistic expectations, I think we need to be good students of the culture, whether it's an office setting, whether it's a relationship setting, whether it's a ministry, whether it's a whole new culture in a whole nother country. Be a student of that culture and focus on what the needs are and what the situation is, what's going on currently, just so that you get a full big picture before you come in with any of your desires, or if you want to call them expectations.
So how would you describe the difference between an expectation and a desire?
Well, like I said, an expectation is something that only you can control. Because if anybody else or anything else can interrupt it happening or stop it from happening, then it shouldn't be an expectation. It should stay in a category of a desire or a hoped for goal that maybe you can work towards or talk towards, or, whatever. But most things need to be in a desire category, which is where, okay, I desire this, but this person might get sick and might not be able to make it happen. Or I desire this, but this may not be part of this culture's understanding. Or I desire this change in this business, but this may not be something that's realistic because the company doesn't have the bandwidth to even do that. So you have to really think about kind of where it needs to be as to where it can be interrupted or where it cannot happen.
Okay. So one of the things that can be really important when a leader is facing disappointment is really the support that she can find from others. How have you seen that played out with the women that you've ministered to?
Support from others is extremely important. I think a lot of women have good networks of friends. Sometimes they may not have a good network of experienced friends, or a network of women that will speak honestly into their lives, because they want to be friends so badly. Sometimes they don't want to offend or cause anything that would maybe interrupt the friendship. So sometimes, because it's not always easy to speak complete truth in love. Sometimes some women have the need to be needed. And so that also poses a situation where you really can't minister effectively if you're trying to get your needs met and not fully try to be objective and meet the needs of someone else. So it's important to have a broad support system, and inclusive of even professional counselors to deal with your own stuff. We all have stuff, and sometimes we're blindsided by it. Sometimes we don't even realize we have it. Sometimes it's so far back in our past that we're not even aware of it. And so we need to have someone that's speaking into our lives, someone that's grounded biblically, that's a mature believer or someone that knows more than you do. And it's so important. Otherwise we can get too caught up in ourselves and not really stay focused on what it is that God's wanting us to do and where God's calling us and how he wants to use us.
And this might be a good place to just let our audience know about an opportunity that our ministry offers for a small group experience that we call The Safe. The Safe offers small groups, online small groups, that are designed to encourage and network and support women in Christian leadership, ranging from one-on-one ministry to church or to nonprofit staffs. It's a place where women in Christian leadership feel the need to safely connect with other women for support and ideas and prayer. And it sounds like that's something that you're saying would be helpful as well.
Very helpful. There's a great value in small group community, because collective observations, collective input is also very, very, very good.
And more information about that is on our website, beyondordinarywomen.org. Lynn Etta, what would you say to the woman who's been in ministry for some time and she's faced perpetual issues with disappointment? Maybe it's being left out of decision-making. Maybe she feels called into question often. Maybe it's theological differences, but whatever it is, it's been an issue. It's been there. It's not going anywhere, and it's likely not going to change in the future.
Well, number one, just like you listed certain different things, be certain you know what it is that's causing the conflict or the disappointment or the misfit. And that's where having others to speak into your life comes in again, because you can get that input more clearly. Once you've figured out exactly what it is, say maybe it's a misfit. You're just totally misfit for that situation. Don't be so proud or so rigid that you just don't change, that you don't back out. You don't say obviously this is a great place, or this is a great business, there's a great ministry, but it's just not a fit for me, and discuss it with whoever you need to on the other side of that ministry, and see if they agree, see if it's something that truly is true with them, considering you. And if you all agree, well, then just change. I mean, God may be leading you to something that's very much like what you thought that was, but it might not be in that particular ministry. So just don't be afraid to change. God uses one thing to lead us to another sometimes. And so just don't let pride get in the way. Don't let your own agenda get in the way, and just be willing to move on.
That's good advice. Thank you. This has been very helpful, and we appreciate you being with us today. If you'd like to hear more from Lynn Etta, we also have a video podcast on ministering in unlikely places. It's available as a video or podcast in our resource section. Again, if you're interested in the SAFE groups, you can find registration on our homepage at beyondordinarywomen.org. You can also find many other resources on leadership topics if you click on the resource menu at beyondordinarywomen.org. You can find the drop-down You as a Leader. Thank you so much for joining us. I will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Beyond Ordinary Women podcast. You can find more podcast episodes and resources for women in leadership by going to beyondordinarywomen.org. This podcast is produced by Beyond Ordinary Women Ministry. Our production team includes Evelyn Babcock, Kay Daigle, Deborah Herring, and Sharifa Stevens. Theme music, Back in Stride by Don Miller, used courtesy of Christine Miller.